here at Railroads, it's so important to us that we start all of our sessions with an acknowledgement of the traditional lands. So we at Railroads University acknowledge that our campus is located on the traditional lands of the Kosepsum and Lekwungen ancestors and families. There has been a long, long history of teaching, gathering, and learning on these lands, and it's with great gratitude that we occupy this space. So we are here today to chat about global leadership at Royal Roads University. So my name is Selena Kunar, and I'm an education advisor here at Royal Roads. And I am so happy to be here with a whole lot of folks who are excited to help us explore global leadership at RRU. Starting with our program head, Dr. Wanda Krause. Hi, Wanda. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Selena. Good morning or good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Wanda Krause. And yes, as Selena just mentioned, I'm program head of the Global Leadership Program and really grateful to be speaking to you from the Wasanic traditional family lands, where currently most of us are working from home. So this is where I am located in the Greater Victoria area. As you can see, I also have a picture behind me of Victoria, BC. So really glad to be joining you. To give you just a little bit of my background, my PhD is in political science, so politics of the Middle East. And that work has taken me to be doing research, mostly in the Middle East, also in the north of Canada, looking at change, transformational change within organizations and their impact on civil society to understand their impact on government. So that's kind of the area that I focus on, as well as gender issues, evaluation issues, and challenges. We also have lots of faculty in the program that teach, and their backgrounds are aligned to the different courses that are being offered currently. So that includes evaluation, systems thinking, anthropology, and expertise as well around the big issues that we face today, such as climate action. So we have a number of people with us in the program that you will get to know a little bit more personally. The way our cohort program runs is you have a very small group per professor or per faculty, even though your class might be larger. So you'll get to know your faculty really well as we move along. Thank you, Selena.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Wanda. I'll note there's some folks that you won't see. Well, you may see their videos. I see Rhonda. Hi, Rhonda. Good morning. You might not see pop up with their videos, but you will absolutely see pop up in the chat box. So we are so lucky to have Rhonda and Alana here from our enrollment teams to help answer any questions that come up for you. And we also have Nicole as well. So please make sure you're connecting in the chat box as we have a ton of folks online today who are eager to connect. So you've learned a little bit about us and who's in the room today. So we would love to take the opportunity to know a little bit more about all of you. So if you feel comfortable, let's take that chat box for a spin. If you click that chat box icon below, the chat box will appear and let us know, where are you joining from today? Perhaps what sector are you working in? What brought you today's webinar? Whatever you'd like to share with us to help us get to know you, to make sure the information we're providing is helpful to everyone who's joining us live. So while the chat box introductions are coming in, I'll move along with how we're going to spend this hour-ish together today. So next, we're going to move into an exploration of the Royal Roads University experience. Of course, talk about the programs themselves, cap off with a run through of our application requirements and admissions for these programs, and of course, leave time for questions and conversations as well. But that said, as questions and stuff come in, pop them in the chat box. We'll try our best to answer them as we move along, but we might leave some juicy ones for the end so we can have more time to dig in. So speaking of digging in, I see the chat box is growing. So let me turn my attention to the chat box and see who is in the room today. Oh my gosh, we have folks from all over joining us today. Bangladesh, Edmonton, Nanaimo, Toronto, Victoria, Kamloops, and a variety of sectors coming together today as well. We have folks with backgrounds in youth services, the charity sector working on gender equality globally. We have folks from healthcare as well. BC's housing office in the downtown east side, Rachel from Kenya. So we have quite a diverse audience in terms of where we're located globally, but what we all do professionally and what interests us personally as well. So please continue to pop your introductions and who you are and where you're coming from in the chat box, as we're going to keep an eye on this and make sure we get to know all of you. Wanting to know a little bit about all of you, we're going to actually do a little poll right now. While we haven't talked too much about our programs quite yet, when you registered, you were able to see all of the different things we were going to explore today. So through this poll that hopefully you're seeing on your side, we want to get to know, what were you hoping to learn more about? Was it our fully on-campus offerings? Was it our blended delivery? What time length? Was it our 24-month programs, our 13-month programs? Perhaps our diploma, our certificate? This again will let us know how we can make sure the information today is helpful to you. So on my end, I can see everyone clicking this poll, which is just fantastic. We really have quite a spread across all of our options right now. And you are allowed to click more than one, so please click away at anything that interests you. And we're gonna end this poll now, and let's share the results. So in terms of delivery model, it's looking like we have a lot of folks in the room interested in our blended delivery, but almost just as many interested in our on-campus as well. And then of course, folks interested in our 24-month master's program, but very close second is our 13-month as well. And we will talk a little bit about our graduate diploma and certificate. So I'm gonna close this poll for all of you. Feel free to exit out if it doesn't automatically close. And let's get to chatting about our place and our space. So as Wanda mentioned, we are so lucky to be based here in Victoria, BC. This slide is just some quick facts about the area. And one we like to point out is our top 3 industries here in Victoria. 2 of those are tourism and hospitality and education, areas that we are experts in here at Rural Roads. I'll note that this session is being recorded, so for any folks who might be furiously taking notes, don't worry. We'll send you the recording and it'll have these slides included as well. So our space, this is just a quick snapshot of our campus. We'd like to share that we are located on over 500 acres of overgrowth forest, and our campus actually takes up just a small piece of that. So you can see here that there is quite an expanse of land within and around our campus. So zooming in a little bit more about that map, we want to show you some pictures so you know what you can expect when you're able to come and check out our beautiful space. So looking at that top left corner photo, we have Hatley Castle. This is our most iconic building on campus, as you may recognize it from films like X-Men, Deadpool, or The Descendants. I believe that's a Disney franchise. And while the castle is just beautiful, there are some really important spaces around that as well. So looking far in the distance into that photo, you can start seeing some of our campus buildings themselves. These are always filled with students, staff, and faculty buzzing around as you're moving from class to class or meeting to meeting. If you take a peek at the top photo on the right-hand side, these are our gardens. So they're located on one side of our castle, and they are curated gardens by our staff here who have created such a beautiful space for moments of quiet, peace, and grounding. So this photo here depicts our Italian gardens, though we do have our rose gardens, our Japanese gardens, and a variety of other curated spaces as well. Looking at that bottom left photo, you see a Skymalt lagoon. This lagoon is just a stone's throw away from our gardens and is actually a registered bird sanctuary. So there are always fun critters to keep you company. And finally, the bottom right photo here, it's important to us to show online learning as well. While the power of our place is based in this physical location, it's also based virtually as well, as we've been leaders in online education for over 25 years. And we'll talk a little bit more about what online learning looks like in this program shortly. And that was very shortly. We're going to talk about it now. So I'm going to pass the microphone over to you, Wanda.
Thanks, Selena. Could we have the next poll to understand what everyone in the room is thinking at this point in terms of what they think is their greatest challenge or what's on their mind right now? Thanks. And so here we have 7 different choices, recognizing we are addressing global leadership challenges that are much larger than these, but these are some that you may choose from. And I believe, Selena, we can choose more than one. Is that correct? Yeah. So what's on your mind right now for global issues? All right. Oh, yes, climate crisis, but number one, economic challenges. Wow. And political crises that are, Selena and I were talking about the different ones around the world before we jumped on the call. So we couldn't pick one, but there are several big ones. And food security, we just had a webinar on that. We know that's a big issue. Pandemic, yes, is on people's minds no matter what. Access to education, okay. And truth and reconciliation. These are almost all even, except for the economic one, which is one that stands out the most, but pretty much all equal. Great to know. Next slide, Selena, please. So this leads us into understanding a little bit more why you would like to take the program. So whether that's the MA, a diploma, I didn't see anyone choose the certificate, and then thinking also what the different delivery modes might be. But global leadership attracts students like you who are concerned about global leadership challenges because it creates the ability for you to learn how to address those global leadership challenges, whatever they are. And so our program has essentially 3 different competency areas. So you learn how to support oneself and others as the next phase of leadership learning and organizations. Then the third would be the macro level, so communities and complex systems. And that's why we have a very heavy emphasis on systems thinking and approaches in the program as part of the core curriculum. So learning how you can support your communities and the planet, and really importantly, not just now, but looking long-term into the future. So who is this for? The poll gives us a bit of an understanding of what your interests are, but obviously you're coming from different sectors, and we see that now in the chat. Many of you are coming from governmental sectors, I see, private sectors. And the wonderful thing about the program is it attracts, we don't have one specific area that the program attracts people from. Everyone comes from different areas. And so therefore, the skills you learn, the competencies you gain help you hone your skills in your specific sector or area to move up and to have more impact. And what we're seeing lately is more applicants and students are taking this program in order to not just move up, but actually shift laterally to other forms or other sectors. So whether you're interested in international non-governmental organizations, so those big international organizations such as the UN, Indigenous organizations and government. So we do have governance components within the program. Human rights organizations, if that's your interest, you'll develop skills in that regard. International leadership training in institutions. And so there's a variety of trainings that students focus on. Business, and business seems to be a growing sector for students wanting to hone their skills for. Obviously, community-based organizations, we actually have one course that's very focused on that, social enterprise businesses. So becoming more skilled at not just business, it's more so how to have an impact in a community through your business. Globally oriented social purpose organizations as a result, and entrepreneurs as a result. Climate action, so really focused on creating competencies to do work in the planetary health sector, which is a broad term. And simply those working to make a difference. So we actually have students coming through who don't know exactly what sector they want to end up in, but they're just passionate about creating change in the world in some way, and obviously gaining the skills to be able to do that. Thanks, Selena. And so we have, and I noticed greater interest was for the MA, and more particularly for the 24-month. So for the 24-month, the 2-year program, we've got 2 options, as you may have noticed and read already. One will be on campus, so you'd be coming to Victoria to take your 2-year master's program. And the blended, and what that means is you can actually study from anywhere in the world and come to Victoria 2 times. And during those 2 times, you would be coming for 2 weeks each time. For a very intensive study with your cohort. But for the most part, you are studying online, and so your courses are online if you're taking the blended program. If you're taking the on-campus, most of your courses are on campus, but you actually have a few courses that are online. Now, the difference between the 13-month and 24-month beyond the duration that I'll emphasize now is that for the 24-month, you can be working, you can be attending to whatever is going on in your life at the moment, and know that you can create some kind of balance potentially. Of course, it's an intensive program no matter what, but for the 13-month, it's a very intensive study, and you're not actually expected to be working while you are enrolled in the 13-month. Just because of the intensity, you'll be taking sometimes 3 courses at a time, which for our program is a lot. So we can talk a little bit more about that if you've got questions afterwards. For the graduate diploma, and you'll see when we move forward, you'll see what that actually looks like in terms of a breakdown of courses. That's 10 months, 18 credits, so roughly half. And that entails also coming on campus 2 times as well. For the graduate certificate, you'd be coming on campus if you're in the blended program 1 time, and that's a 5-month duration. Some applicants choose the graduate certificate or diploma to ladder into the master's, so to kind of have a taste of what the program's like. So far, I think it's 100% of anyone who's enrolled in the certificate or diploma has moved on. So you can have a bit of a taster and then move on if that's your wish. And then other students say they'd like to take the diploma or certificate if they already have a master's and just want to ground their learning in global leadership competencies without going all the way to completing another master's. All right. So I'll just answer a question really quickly that I see in the chat. Will the on-campus certificate also be online in the fall due to COVID? So yes, we are beginning our on-campus diploma and master's. The certificate will begin this year as well, but you will not, if you're in the certificate, you will not be on campus in the fall. The on-campus components begin in January. So in that case, you'd be coming in January for the 2 weeks. So just to be clear, those joining for the on-campus program, you are not physically on campus yet because of COVID. You'll be actually joining wherever you are online and then coming on campus beginning early January. Okay, so I've talked a little bit already to the blended delivery. If you have any, so what I'll just say, because I've already spoken to this, if there's any quick questions I can answer in the chat, I will. And so just maybe one thing to mention is with the 13-month, if you are in the blended program for the 13-month, because remember we have both options on campus and blended for all of these, you would potentially, if you wanted to just make one trip, you would come for the 2 weeks for the first residency. And if you wanted, you could stay a little while for the second offering of the residency. And so how we can do that, they're pretty much back to back. How we can do that is because with the 13-month, you're actually beginning with one cohort and you're with that first cohort until the end of the first residency. And then you move into another cohort, which is the group that began the year before in the 2-year program. So as a 13-month program student, you'd be part of 2 cohorts. And with the 24-month, you'd just be moving along with mostly one cohort. What is the first intake of 2022? So we just have one intake per year. So that's every fall. That will be October. Could you please explain a bit about the 24-month delivery mode course load? Yeah, so with the 24-month course delivery load, if you're asking in terms of the ability to work, you would be able to work and study at the same time. So there is a bit of work-life balance that perhaps you could create to some degree. We have also students, current students who could speak to that perhaps a little bit more in terms of that doability. And we also, as I mentioned, have students who have other areas in life that they're very focused on at this time. So there is that balance that you're able to create. But it is, in any case, an intensive time. You're doing readings, you're interacting with one another as a cohort and with your instructors, and you have assignments that are, we try to space out, but sometimes if you're taking a couple courses at a time, which you will, even if you're in the 24-month program, they may come at the same time. So it's hard to say what the load will be. It's not always even in terms of what to expect. Just expect that it's a master's, it's an intensive time no matter what, but for the 13-month, it'll be much more intensive. And so there's one question that I think it's just me who can see it, which is if you, for the 13-month on campus, when are you supposed to arrive? So physically, you'd be in Victoria for the 1st of January, but you'd begin online in October. All right, I think that's it for now for questions. Next slide, please. And so with these two options for the on-campus and blended. Towards the end of your programs, you'll be able to have a choice of whether you do a capstone project, which takes 5 months, roughly 5-6 months, or an internship. So if you were doing an internship, you would enter an organization of somewhat your choice. You try to create a pathway to an organization where you have most interest. And you'd also be doing a little bit of a capstone within that internship experience. So whether you take the capstone journey or you take the internship journey, you'd be doing work that's capstone related. But for the internship, you'd be getting work experience. So for just to have an idea of the difference between the certificate and diploma, and I'll focus more on the diploma given who's all in the room today. Everyone, no matter what program you join, you start with these courses in front of you, which is GBLD 501, and that's called Personal and Theoretical Foundations to Global Leadership. And so here, you would learn more about theory, the foundations of global leadership, and key foundational concepts to global leadership. That's online. And for GBLD 505, personal capacities for working in complex global systems, that's actually a 3-part course, meaning it's 9 credits, made into one longish course, intensive course. It's only 10 weeks in terms of the length, but it's very, very intensive. And that's where you'd be coming normally on campus together, and that would be in January. This past year, we actually had the residency online because of COVID, but we are expecting everyone to be together in person. And then for the diploma, which is different to the graduate certificate, this is where you'd stop with the certificate. But with the diploma, you'd be taking, in addition, 2 elective courses. And so for the on-campus, you would take these electives on campus. And for the blended, you would take these online. You could take them on campus too and be a blended student. So there is a little bit of switching, but we are expecting students essentially to continue in their streams. And just to keep in mind in the chat as well, there's just so much information that our colleagues are sharing with you through links. Yeah, and so I see in the chat too, the appreciation that Selena, you're able to offer a student perspective. Yeah, I'm really grateful that we are able to work together in that way as well. So we have many angles and perspectives to offer. Okay, I hope I haven't missed anything. Yeah, thanks, Selena. Okay, so here's the overall program structure on this slide that shows you if you chose the on-campus and if you chose the, which is to the right, and if you chose the blended, which is to the left. And as I just explained, you take 501, 505, which is the 9-credit intensive course with a residency. And then you would move into choosing from these 2 streams your choice of electives. You can also take electives that are offered Royal Roads wide. So these are some of the courses that you'd have choices around: navigating geopolitical dynamics of global communities, community development in the global context. So that's the one I mentioned a little bit earlier. That's focused on community development, using different models, managing difficult relationships within and across community dynamics. So dealing with conflict, international cultural leadership field trip. And that's a really fun elective, because in this one, normally we'd go abroad internationally to a country, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. This year, we have a virtual offering of 535, where students can still have that international experience. And in this case, our excursion is to India online. And we learn a lot. Students love it because you get to really see what some of the global leadership challenges are in context. And so looking at gender related issues, looking at struggles that youth are going through and programs that are created around that. Some of these challenges are they're all real. So some of them are heartbreaking, and you get to really see in context what communities are doing, what organizations are doing to get around these issues. So you develop your skills in context in this course. And then lastly, we have an evaluation in global context course as well. And then you go into, if you're taking the master's program, you're going into your second residency. Residencies are shared between the on-campus students and the blended students. So everybody comes together. But as I mentioned at the very beginning, you have several faculty with you. So you do have a lot of attention, a lot of opportunity to not necessarily have one-on-one with your faculty, but create those relationships with your faculty and ask lots of questions. So you do have a lot of attention. And then you move into your choice of whether you want to do an internship in an organization or a company, or you'd like to do a capstone project. And in that capstone, both of these are 6 credits, by the way. In that capstone, you would choose any issue that matters or you feel matters to you and the community of your choice, and create ability through that capstone to perhaps engage with organizations, engage with those who are trying to create change around whatever that issue is, and work together. So it's not something that is simply theoretical, because the program is very focused on creating real world change. That's really what our focus is. So through this time, whether it's an internship or whether it's a capstone, you are working with others to create change. Next slide, please. And so here are, here are some pictures of one of the trips we did to Ecuador as the GBLD 535 course. And you can see we have opportunity to explore places. So this is in Quito. And students also have opportunity to deliver presentations. And so here in the upper right picture, that's at a military college, and it's quite a large room with interested participants. Lower left, that's where we visited a community. There I am walking with students. And so there is a little bit of, there are excursions. So there's a little bit of physical endurance that's associated with some of these trips, so just to be aware of. And here it was a community of, I think it's about 1,000 people. And then the larger area had just 10,000 people, and the challenges were around water. So access to water. And so therefore that's related to food security. And so really learning what we can do in such situations and what the communities are doing to address the challenge. And then in the lower right, students are taking an excursion with Indigenous leaders down the Amazon. And here they learned a lot of different things as they visited communities and went through the forest or jungle. Thanks, Selena. So I'm just seeing one more question in the chat. Once admitted to the diploma program, does one need to apply for admission to the MA if going that route? So if you know you're going that route immediately, no, you don't have to do an application. You would just move through, of course, letting us know, and then we would get the paperwork in place for you, so it's not automatic. If you, and I can't remember, you'd have to connect with one of our advisors, our admission advisors who are on the call today. There's a certain period of time, if elapsed, then you would actually have to apply again. All right, completion options. All right, we've gone through that. And I'll pass it back to you, Selena. Thank you, everyone.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Wanda. And for everyone who is on the call and engaging in the chat box. We know this is a lot of information, many different ways you can customize your journey to explore global leadership here at Railroad. So continue to pop those questions in the chat box. We're now going to move through a few slides that touch on the actual application process into the programs and what admissions looks like as well. And then we'll take some more questions. So continue to pop them in the chat box as we have Rhonda, Alana, Nicole, Wanda, myself answering now, but we'll be sure to open it up to a bigger dialogue shortly. So with that, let's kick off with learning about admissions into these programs. So here at Railroads, we have both our standard admissions pathway as well as our flexible admissions. So on this slide here, you see our standard admissions. So standard admissions into this program is a 4-year or comparable undergraduate degree from a recognized post-secondary institution with a minimum GPA of a B, as well as a minimum of 3 years of general leadership experience and a demonstration of significant cross-cultural experience that could be gained through travel or work. You'll notice that on that second bullet there, we have minimum of 3 years of general leadership experience. And on leadership, it has that asterisk. If you head to our website, you're able to find why we've put that asterisk on leadership. And it's because in the School of Leadership Studies, we recognize that what constitutes leadership is so vast and is not easily defined as positional leadership, as your professional title says manager. They're all different things in professional, academic, personal, philanthropic endeavors that you may have completed that showcase leadership experience. So I recommend heading to our website if you have any questions about what could constitute general leadership experience. In the smaller bullet there, you'll see we have some information about our academic writing and critical thinking course. So if you are an applicant who meets the degree requirement, but who's been away from academic writing for more than 10 years, normally we'll ask you to take our academic writing and critical thinking course offered here at Railroads and look for you to obtain a minimum of a B+ before starting your program. The academic writing and critical thinking course is well loved at our university and is one that's used by many, if not all, of our programs across campus. And this is to make sure that when you're starting your program, you're equipped with all the skills you need to be able to dive into your learning, and you're not worried about what's APA, what will my instructors be looking for in terms of academic writing. We make sure that you have those skills with you and you feel comfortable moving into this space before you get started. So we actually have many folks who elect to take that course because they want to brush up on their skills before they get started. So if you have any questions about that course in particular, feel free to send us an email and we can send you more information. Because it is so well loved on our campus, I believe it's offered almost once a month now. So always an opportunity to get that started. On the slide, you see flexible admissions. So we at Railroads are so proud to offer a flexible admissions pathway. This is for those folks who may not have the traditional academic background, but have been working professionals for a significant amount of years who have the real world live experience of operating in these contexts. We recognize that it's not only your academic background that makes our classrooms rich, but it's your lived experiences, both professional and personal, that add to the learning in the classroom. So for flexible admissions, we're looking for folks who have at least 10 years of professional experience with 3 years of leadership experience. And you see that little asterisk there again. And then, of course, a demonstration of significant cross-cultural experiences gained through work or travel. You'll notice that we have another blurb here about our academic writing and critical thinking, just saying that applicants who are assessed under flexible admissions, including those who meet the degree requirement but perhaps not the GPA requirement, will be asked to take academic writing and critical thinking and as well obtain a B plus before starting the program. Okay, so this is a quick snapshot of the application process. So you kick off with your online application. You do that through our website, and it has a fee attached to it of $126.28. And once that online application is in, a portal opens up for you to start submitting some supporting documents. So supporting documents are things like your official transcript, personal statement, a structured resume, and 2 letters of reference. Our website is a wonderful resource for moving through crafting these supporting documents because it has some tips, tricks, and guidelines for what these supporting documents can look like. So, for example, for our personal statement, if you head to the website, you'll find some guiding questions about what we're hoping that you answer within your personal statement. The structured resume, we have some guidelines as to how you can structure this resume to make sure that all of your accomplishments shine bright. And then we have some more practical information as well for the official transcripts and 2 letters of reference, such as how you can submit those to our offices. Of course, our enrollment teams are always here to help you help you navigate these supporting document submissions. So upcoming intakes, as Wanda mentioned, we have 1 intake a year for these programs. So you'll see we have our on-campus, both 13 and 24 month. We have our blended, our 13 and 24 month, and our graduate diploma and graduate certificate options listed. They all have the same start date, and that is September 20th, 2021. Putting your application deadline at June 20th, 2020. So if you're looking at starting this program this year, we highly recommend getting in your application deadline is June 20th, 2021. So we highly recommend getting in your online application in as soon as you can because it lets us know if you're interested in this program, and we make sure to let you know how our capacity is looking as well. This is just a quick snapshot of some of the other services we have available to support our prospective students as they move through prospective students to current students to alumni. So if you have any questions about accessibility services, career learning and development, international student services, Indigenous student services, student engagement, or anything else you see on this here, please connect with us. We have teams who in all of these areas who are happy to answer any questions that you may have. A question that came up a few times in the registration page was financial aid. So we wanted to make sure right away we gave you the information you needed to help explore what financial aids and award could look like for you. So on the slide here, you can see some of the areas that our financial aid and awards specialist can help you explore. So for example, loans, awards, research scholarships, or other types of funding as well. So we recommend connecting with our financial aid and awards specialists via their website. We have their link here. We've also noted their local phone numbers and toll-free phone numbers as well. This team does have a really helpful blog as well. So I'm a bit chat box blind at the moment, but I'm sure Rhonda will pop that in if she hasn't already. That's a really helpful way to dip your toes into what this team can help you explore in terms of financial aid. And speaking of Rhonda, Alana, Nicole, all the folks in our chat box are just a few beautiful examples of the teams we have here at Rural Roads, eager to support you through your journey. So you can find Rhonda and her team at learn.more@ruralroads.ca. And you can find Alana and her team at learn.more.international@ruralroads.ca. They can tell you more about these programs or any others on our campus as well. So please do reach out if you have any questions. And with that, we have entered our Q&A period. So thank you all so much for being here. I'm going to close down the PowerPoint presentation and open up the chat box and see what fun has been going on in there. So I've got the chat box.
We have a few questions that were posed maybe about 10 minutes ago, and I've tried to find. So I think there was one on applications, if I got that right, to know if you got your application in. I think it was about a visa. Okay, I don't have it in front of me now, but if I remember what it was asking, do get your application, even though the deadline is June 20th, do get your applications in as soon as possible. If you're applying from abroad, you will need a visa. So even if you are joining on campus at the very beginning of January, you would still need your visa, even though you're beginning online in October. So you'd need your visa before October. So just to be clear about that. And I believe Immigration Canada had said if you get your applications in by the 15th of May, that it would be the case that you would get your visas by then. So we're just right after that cutoff date. And I'm not sure, I think that was more related to perhaps a guarantee. So I imagine you would still make it. I don't know for sure, but do get your application in immediately if you're applying from abroad. So that was one question. Another question was about doing an internship. If you are doing the blended program, you're actually expected to be doing your internship with an organization in person. So wherever you are located, if you are located, for example, in Toronto, you might choose an organization in Toronto. If you're doing an organization in Victoria, then you'd find an organization hopefully here, whatever community is a concern for you. For an online internship, you'd actually have to connect with another office. And I don't know, Rhonda or Alana, if you have that email to connect to pose that question around an online option for internships, because we do have a list of organizations that you could choose from. And in some cases, you could put forward another organization that's not on the list that we provide for you. Excuse me. So if that organization operates only online, that's a question that you'd have to pose because it would be outside our list. Any other questions?
Wanda, I received a few through private message.
Okay. Yes.
The first one was, do you know the average age of the cohort or of the learners going into this program?
Yeah, so it's shifting. Normally, it's been between 42 and 47 years old, and that's for the blended program, keeping in mind that we are beginning the on-campus program for the very first time this fall, 2021. And so what we are seeing is a slightly younger age range for the on-campus applicants. But to date, the range has been between 42 to 47. Great questions.
And one more numbers question. Do you happen to know the average class size? This was in reference to the on-campus, but for the on-campus, the blended, whatever you can share would be wonderful.
So the program is growing, it's expanding, and every year we see an increased number of students. Last year it was 38 students, so that's the number we grew to begin the online, the blended program. This year, with COVID hitting, we began with around 20 students, and in 2021, given the applications that are coming in during this time, we are again growing despite despite the pandemic. I don't know what those numbers are going to be at this time. And so to answer the earlier question on age, so you've got in the chat a couple a couple age ranges put out there.
Then
any other questions?
one more numbers question,
Yeah.
actually.
Okay.
We have someone in our chat box interested to learn about the tentative number of hours per week a course would be. So how many hours can they expect to dedicate per week per course? So I think this person is wondering about the 13-month option when you had shared at some point folks are doing 2 to 3 courses at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it's the intensive 13-month, you're looking at between, and everybody reads at different paces and that kind of thing. So you'd have to gauge for yourself, quite honestly. But we're looking at approximately 36, 38 hours per week for the intensive. And that's because you're taking sometimes 3 courses at a time, which include for all 3 each readings, engagement with your cohort, and assignment deliveries. And as I mentioned earlier, that's not across the board throughout your program. There's going to be times such as when you have your residency, when you're studying and working literally from morning until night during that 2-week period, with a little bit of a break sometimes on your weekend in between the 2 weeks. But during that time, just be aware that you really have to make arrangements. And we do our best to accommodate. We know, we're really focused on accommodating different ways and giving you ideas to accommodate different challenges in your life. And we have, not just within the program, but across the university, advisors who can help and counselors who can help. But generally, if you have children to take care of, you would find someone, for example, in that case, to support so that you could be fully present and dedicated during the 2-week period. Hope that answers your question.
Another question's popped up in the chat box, a great question around grading format, coursework, exams, attendance. What does evaluation look like?
Right. So we have, and we're trying to incorporate more delivery modes. So you have PowerPoint presentations. You can, normally you'd have a paper that you would have an assignment around. And so that paper would entail often a component where you cover theory, cover the thinking, the literature, and incorporate your own reflection. So really important in the program, which is different to other institutions, is because it's focused on leadership, we're really looking for growth during that period of time, which is, between assignments in one course, maybe 3 assignments. We're looking for that growth happening. And where we find that is in your reflections. So for example, if we have a large component in 505, which is the second course, around bias, so unconscious bias. So in an assignment that is around unconscious bias, and there are, we would be looking for your reflections on, for example, these are the assumptions I had at this point. The literature helped me, and you quote the literature, whichever that was, the literature helped me see these different angles. And based on a particular experience, now I can look back at that experience and see it with different eyes, see it from different perspectives. So these are the kinds of things we're looking for, and we have that outlined very clearly with each course. You could keep going back and referring to the competencies and exactly what we're looking for each assignment. So don't worry, with each assignment, we have that clearly put out what we're looking for and what the growth aspects will be for that assignment.
Thanks, Wanda. We had another question. Is the MAGO program relevant for the private sector? I noticed the webpage itself focuses more on public and NGO enterprises.
Yeah. So with the last cohort, and we have members also online with us from the last cohort, this was the first cohort where we saw a little bit more uptake from those who are coming from the private sector and those who are focused on entrepreneurship. Normally, we focus on those who are focused on going into organizations, government, community development. And yes, I would say that the smaller percentage would be those who are going into and focused on the private sector and entrepreneurship. But the material that you will be covering and the competencies that you will be gaining also pertain to you, even though you would be, just so that you're fully aware, you'd be from the smaller percentage of those joining the program. And we also have those previous to today's date who have graduated from the program and are fully in the private sector. And they're so grateful they have taken this program because they're able to create change and do the kinds of things that they had hoped to be able to do in the private sector. So you'll definitely gain what you need. And keep in mind, when you do your capstone at the end, you choose what you want to focus on. You choose the growth that you want to see happen. And you're able to also choose from a very long list your supervisor. So you'd look for the competencies in that supervisor that you'd want to embody and want guidance around. So you have lots of opportunity to grow in the direction that you'd like.
Thanks so much, Wanda. And I really echo what you've throughout the session where we're responding to questions, but I caught the tail end of what you just shared of diving into where you want to explore through your supervisor. And that is very much the case for me. I had such a wonderful, transformative experience in one of my courses and was inspired to ask that instructor to be my supervisor. And that kicked off the direction of my capstone. So a very, very powerful relationship for sure. I'll share in the chat box. As Wanda mentioned, there's a few of us who are current students in the program online, and we've shared some of our experiences with the residencies being both in person or virtual. So for those folks who have any questions about the residency experience, feel free to pop them in the chat box, as we have some folks online who can help answer those questions from an administrative perspective and a student perspective as well. We had one more question. Let me quickly scroll up in the chat box here, Wanda. Let me see here. Oh, is there still space in the coming intake?
Yes, definitely. Hence, we have the webinar. Yes, so there is still space. We do have a cap, but currently we do have space. And if you can get your applications in, they will be processed as pretty much as soon as we receive them. We are really quick with getting back to you. So you may hear from us within 2-3 weeks. And I saw one more question that we hadn't answered, and it'll be the last question that we're able to answer given we're at time, and that is if you can work during the 24-month or the 2-year program. And yes, you would be able to work. So just confirming, normally you'd be able to work, but really that depends on your capacities and whatever else you have going on in your life. And we also know that life does happen for most students. So there's a little bit of wiggle room for you to be able to attend to those as well. All right.
Thank you so much, Wanda. We have come to a close on today's session, but not on the opportunity to ask questions. Rhonda and Alana have popped in their information in the chat box to how you can keep connected with them and continue asking these really great questions. Rhonda shared just now the opportunity to speak with an alumni of the program if you wish. So if you'd like to connect with an alumni from this program, you can connect with her at rhonda.white@railroads.ca or our teams at learn.more@railroads.ca and learn.more international at railroads.ca. Oh my gosh. And we have Birani who shared fall cannot come soon enough. So looking forward to meeting and getting to work with Wanda, Rhonda, and everybody at RRU. Ah, so happy to have you in today's session and absolutely echo your excitement about getting to meet with you soon. Was there anything else you wanted to share, Wanda, before we close out today?
Thank you to my colleagues, Rhonda, Alana, Nicole, Selena, for being with us today. We also have Lisa Korak, who's the core part of, she's the program associate, core part of our program, who you can also send questions to. She's super, super supportive and helpful. If you ask questions, she'll get back with a thorough answer. So just to be aware, there's more than myself, and I'm available to answer questions at any time, and also happy to jump on a call. If you really have concerns and you really want to walk through something together, I can help you on the phone. So there's opportunities to connect as well.
Amazing. Well, we wish all of you a wonderful rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, depending when and where you're watching this from. And we hope that those who are watching the recording as well are encouraged to reach out anytime to ask questions that might have popped up for you. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Bye bye.